Dario Argento's 1977 film Suspiria is considered one of his greatest ever made almost unanimously. Though I personally consider Deep Red to be Argento's masterpiece, no film of his has ever captivated me or left an impression on me in the same way Suspiria did. Watching Suspiria for the first time, I was not scared of it at all. In fact, I was laughing at most of it because I found the whole film ridiculous and had no idea people could consider it a masterpiece. However, much like Phantasm, I couldn't help but think about the film constantly after watching it. There was something about it that, if nothing else, was at least charming to me. A couple months later, I decided to watch the film again. This time, it was one of the most disturbing films that I had ever seen. Despite how uncomfortable I felt throughout the entire film, I couldn't look away. By the time it was over, I saw that this film was looking to make me feel something I couldn't pinpoint. A deeply disturbing, otherworldly feeling. And that was when I realized what makes Suspiria a masterpiece. On the surface, Suspiria is not a film that sounds like it would be anything special. If I were to explain Suspiria in simple terms to someone who's never heard of it, I would likely say something like, Suspiria is about a girl who goes to a dance school that ends up being ran by witches. This, in and of itself, is not compelling. It sounds kinda silly, in fact, like the plot of a Goosebumps book. However, there are elements to an Argento movie that make the otherwise simple plot something to be marveled at. There are three elements to an Argento film that make them the masterpieces that they are. These three elements are the visuals, soundtracks, and the characters. Out of all of his films, Suspiria is undoubtedly the one where Argento best combined these elements together to create the disturbing experience that Suspiria provides. When you watch Suspiria, the visuals are likely the first aspect of the film that stand out to you. The excessive saturation and vibrance of the film, as well as the cinematography, causes what would be natural in realistic settings, a dance school, a historical landmark, and an airport to feel off, though they don't belong, they feel unfamiliar to us. While the visuals serve as a mystery for the eyes, in the background lies mystery to the ears in Goblin's soundtrack to Suspiria. The soundtrack of Suspiria is arguably the most disturbing and chilling of any horror film ever made. The main theme of the movie just in itself is iconic and recognizable and is one of the greatest scores there is. The score starts off as a beautiful and simple melody that feels natural, almost like a lullaby that would help a baby sleep. This is before it becomes unnerving, as a raspy voice starts to sing along to the melody, and a strange drum-like sound can be heard. Finally, the score escalates into sheer terror as persistent high-pitched noises begin to play, and the raspy voice starts to sound like they are saying something, yet none of what they are saying can be made out. The inability for us to fully understand what is being said in the song, while at the same time being convinced there are in fact words being said, creates an emotional tear between a feeling of familiarity and a feeling of otherworldliness, a feeling of recognizability and a feeling of unrecognizability. The chilling sounds of the raspy voice and the strange drum-like sound over the otherwise natural-feeling melody creates a discomforting mixture of childlike innocence and something terrifying. Finally, what capitalizes on the visuals and the soundtrack of Suspiria are the characters. One of the most admirable aspects of Argento's films are his unique characters. Even characters who are almost irrelevant in his films are given interesting characteristics, such as the butler of the dance school in Suspiria. The film takes the time to establish that he wears dentures because he had to get all of his teeth pulled.
You see that gorgeous smile? He's felt very handsome ever since he got those false teeth. Last year, he discovered he had gingivitis of the gums. So he had all his teeth pulled. The top row one morning, the bottom row a day later. And bang!
There is no importance or reason for this to be brought up, or even exist in the first place. Yet Argento includes it because he wants the characters to feel real, except he doesn't. While the characters in Suspiria have unique personality traits that make them feel like something more than a generic fairy tale character and more like an actual person, the way the characters behave and the way they are acted make them feel like anything but natural. There are many cases of overacting and underacting that make many scenes, especially murder scenes, feel awkward to watch because the characters' reactions feel unnatural or too scripted. And this is intentional. The characters feel like they should be real, yet also in the end feel like they're definitely not real. This is the case with every character except the protagonist, Susie, who feels and behaves like a real person. She stands out as the most natural feeling, intentionally because it makes us sympathize with her. As the viewer, we feel like a natural person surrounded by unnatural people alongside her. All of these factors contribute to one consistent feeling that Suspiria thrives on, a feeling of an unrealistic reality. Everything in the film feels, looks, and sounds like something familiar yet unfamiliar at the same time, natural yet unnatural, beautiful yet disturbing. The film preys upon what we feel to be natural reality and distorts it to be not quite that. Suspiria's genius comes from the fact that it is one of the most terrifying movies ever made, yet at the same time is built in such a way that we feel like we can't look away from it. We don't want to look away from it. The viewer can't help but see something beautiful and charming in the otherwise disturbing and dreadful version of reality that Suspiria gives us.